Hello everybody, this is Wendy, welcome. Today we are going to make a Christmas scene card featuring the Ready for Christmas stamp set, and I am giddy over this card. It's like hard for me not to squeal because this is probably my favorite stamp set in the whole holiday catalog. Mostly because it has all these framelits and it has this amazing stamp set with this cute little dog. And I'll be honest, what happened here is that I started making this card and I was like, I am not making this card twice. Usually I make all my cards 2 times for you guys because I want to see how it's going to turn out before I do a video on it. But this time I was like halfway through stamping and masking and I'm like, why? I need to just record this because if this card turns out great, then I'm going to really beat myself up that I didn't record it and I'm not going to feel like redoing it. And if it turns out awful, well, then I just won't show the video. So here you see me with masking paper from Simon Says Stamp. I've linked to all the supplies that I'm using over on my blog. Some of the supplies that I'm using today are not Stampin' Up! Products. I pretty much exclusively use Stampin' Up!, but I have this little piece of my heart that belongs to my art and my creativity, and when it calls for using products that are not Stampin' Up!, I do. So yeah, I'm using Copic markers today, and I'm using different white cardstock, and I'm using Simon Says Stamp masking paper. So you can see here I'm fussy cutting all these little masks out, and I have masked off my dog. And now these, I wanted to show you this. I cut apart these stamps. So the little ornaments were actually stamped together, and I cut them all apart. And you might be looking at the ornaments right now and going like, that is so weird. They're like all over the place. Why are they like that? Well, I had laid this tree down like this over the top before I started doing any stamping at all. And I took my pencil and I kind of outlined around the tree in a really faint line so that I would know where my tree was going to be, so it would help me place everything else. So the way you're looking at this, most of the items on here are masked off. I'm sorry the camera keeps shaking. It was plugged in and I kept hitting the cord. So most of the presents are masked off. The dog's masked off, the table, the cookies, all of that has masking paper over the top of it. I didn't show you that whole process. Okay, this video was an hour and 10 minutes long. And I know that you do not want to sit here with me for an hour and 10 minutes. I know you love me. I love you. But let's face it, there's a time limit that we can stand to spend together. And that's all there is to it. So, I mean, I knew that you would be like, I'm out of here. I'm not watching an hour and 10-minute video. Okay. So I'm stamping an old olive right over the top of everything. And right now it's like, oh my God, she wrecked this card when you're looking at it. But I promise it's going to be fine. I had to stamp it 2 or 3 times. So that's why I used my Misty tool, because I wanted to make sure that I got all around those edges where the masks were. If you don't do that, if you don't use like a stamp positioner of some sort, when you stamp stuff like this over masking paper, sometimes you'll get an edge around whatever you've masked off. So I had to mask several times. I'm probably going to end up changing the color of this tree later with my Copic markers. I don't do it here on the video, but eventually I do change it. In fact, it's not even in the photos because it was the one thing about this card I really wasn't crazy about. Okay, so the cool thing about this stamp set is it has these little framed artwork pieces. So I stamped those on the wall to make them look as though they're up there on the wall. And then I just started coloring. And my coloring is sped up 4 times the regular speed because I'm telling you, this took a really long time to color. Lots of little spots and places to color. So you might be asking yourself, well, who's going to get this Christmas card? And the answer is maybe no one, because I've shared this with you before. I have problems giving away a card that I've spent hours on. It took me a full hour and a half to make this card. There is nobody in my life except you watching that understands the amount of work that goes into making a card like this. So because of that, it makes it really hard for me to let it go. I feel somehow like, I don't know, they won't appreciate it or understand that this alone is a Christmas gift, even if I didn't get them anything. Anyway, I digress. I'm being silly. So I'm grabbing Copics and I'm just flat coloring. I call it flat coloring. I don't know what it's actually called, but what that means is I'm not adding any shading. I'm literally just taking my Copic markers and coloring everything in. Now at the end, I go back and I do add shading. And so if you'll hang out for that, you'll see what I do. But I don't add shading to everything because honestly, it was too much and Wendy was done. So I'm adding my basic gray color here. Oh, basic gray. That's funny. I called it that. It's a gray color. I'm adding that to that one present to kind of make it look like silver. It was my goal, but I don't really think it worked. And then I've got a blue present over here with red ribbon. So the biggest thing is I really tried to add colors that made sense and that would continually tie the photo together. So you see that there will be purple in the tree and there's purple in the bows and the presents. There's green and blue up in that little picture frame, and I've put it down in the gifts. I've put it on his or her, I should say, her little sweater, because this is my little dog Molly. That's who I decided to do this after. The only thing is Molly is actually got really tall ears. So her ears are probably as big as this dog's, but they stand straight up versus laying down. And this is exactly what Molly would be doing. She would be standing on her hind legs, sniffing the cookies, wondering how possibly she could get up there and get to them. And so, yeah, that's what happened with Molly. So you see down there at the bottom, I drew a little stump for my tree and made sure that it looked like it was not hovering in the air, because that would just be weird. I used my E markers, E31, 33, and 35 to do Molly, and you can see I am adding shading here. Her underbelly would be darker and she would be lighter on the top, and so I just went through and did a little bit of shading there. I used my E19 to give some shading to this table. I just felt like it needed a little bit. In my head, I'm pretending like there's a fireplace or light source coming from the right side. For whatever reason, my brain seems to think that it's a good idea to shade always on the left. So I thought I was done. And then I was like, this looks dumb. It needs a ground. So I used my Copic multiliner and drew a line in the background, and look at the difference just doing that makes. Now suddenly it looks like the dog is standing on something. I went through and added darker color to that gift just because I didn't want it to blend into the background of the floor. And so they have gray carpet in this house apparently. And so here you're seeing me test out a bunch of colors for the background because I decided the background needed color, not just to be white. So I really struggled with this because I was thinking in my head, oh my God, I've done all this work. This has been such a long process and I don't want to screw this up now. Like, this is the moment. If I do something really bad in the background, it's going to screw the pooch on this whole card and I'm going to be done. So I said to myself, Wendy, you are never going to go wrong with a warm gray. So I grabbed my W1 marker, which is a warm gray, and I just went over the background with it, and I left it so that it didn't have a real even coverage. You can see here in the photo or in the video that the background kind of has like lines, and that was fine. I wanted that actually because I felt like it gave it some texture. So there it is. Sweet Lord. I put it together and it was done. If you want to see other videos from me, please click on either one of them that you see here. Make sure you check out my blog. All the supplies are listed there. They're also listed below this video. And I hope that you have an amazing day, an amazing weekend, and join me on Monday for a really fun blog hop and video. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.